widely held beliefs in your niche. So that's a great way to stand out. Then the third one, so important, are success stories. So these are can be interviews. If you can't interview your clients, then you tell the story. And you can use these standalone pieces and record them with clients and then cut up all that content and reuse those stories inside your how-to, belief busters, your what to do content, all of that. If you do not have stories that you can tell around why your stuff works, why your beliefs work, why all of this work, what I want you to do right now is take a piece of paper, write down all of those stories. You don't even have to write them out. You can just make a list of them and start compiling a list of stories. And then you can use those stories in your marketing, in your social media, in your content. It's super important. I can tell you, every time I run a launch, one of the pieces I always send out as part of my launch is a success story, interview story that I have recorded with one of my students. And a lot of people have told me in my last one, when I did my Smart, Simple, Create Courses That Sell, I told the story of how we created this course, and I showed statistics, things like that, behind the scenes, numbers, all that kind of stuff. And someone told me who enrolled for my course that this was the tipping point that caused them to say, yes, I want to enroll. So you can see how that can be very powerful, not even if you're just launching a course, but if you have services that you want to sell, coaching programs, anything. You really need those success stories. You need statistics when you're showing things that you are working in and sharing that. It really, really helps people go, okay, she's not just telling me what to do, she's showing me that it works. So that is why success stories are so important to your content. So those are the three pieces of content you need to create: how-to content, belief busters, and success stories. So write those down and add that to your list. So let's dive into the three-part process that goes into creating a profitable content calendar that will actually help you create content that your audience wants to hear from you. So the first one that we always do is we align the content plan to whatever it is that my student or my client is teaching or coaching in their practice. So we use that knowledge to create content categories. So a good example would be one of my clients. He's a marriage therapist, Todd Krieger. If you've been around me, you've heard me talk about him before, but he's a great example of this. So we go and only talk about content that aligns with what he does in his coaching practice and therapy practice. So one of the content categories that we talk about are infidelity. We talk about trauma. We talk about dysfunctional families, things like that. So those are content categories. Those are broad pieces of content that we're going to use those to go and research topics underneath those categories to find the hot topics in that section. So that's really the second part. So we take those content categories and we go out and use my special process for creating a content calendar full of hot topics that I teach inside of my Smart, Simple Content Marketing and Automation program. And we build 6 months of pieces of content ideas. Then once we're doing that, we're done with that, we go through and we use a tool and go out and research what are pressing questions for each piece of these contents. And this is something that I use so that we can create more content in less time. It's something I teach inside of the 12X content creation method, which is inside that program. It's also a standalone program that I have. But anyways, we go in there and we use these questions combined with the topics, and that allows us to create more pieces of content that we can cut up and use over and create a month's worth of content in 30 minutes or less. So it's the 3-part process. Just to recap it for you, it's content categories that align with your business, your offerings, your coaching programs, things like that. You take those, research hot topics, and then you find questions that people are asking about these topics that you're going to write about, and you answer those inside of your content. So one of the things I really want to share was that we did one of these, and what I always do inside of my content calendar classes, we open it up and kind of have a hot seat. So we took one of my students who's brand new to my program. She had never been through one of these, and we were actually looking for content that she could use to create her calendar and then use in her podcast. And what she said to me was, wow, I always thought that she teaches, or she reads auras, and she thought that she would have to be going out and finding topics all about auras and aura readings and things like that. But what we showed her inside of that is we could go back and look at what things she works on in her, how she uses the aura readings and things like that to help people lose weight, if you can believe it. It's pretty amazing. Anyways, so we then said, well, let's go look at weight loss topics. And we came up with a bunch of topics, and I showed her how to approach those topics that were hot topics and losing weight and answering questions, and position her content as her content as the answer to what people are looking for help with. So she didn't have to go in and create all this content around auras and why you need to have your aura written. She could actually go out and look at problems that people are having, things that she was already teaching in her business, in her practice, and create content around that, and then just position her unique solution as the answer to these problems and these topics that people really want to hear about. And that was huge for her because it opened up a whole new world of topics and things that she could talk about, and she got really excited. So that's really the aha moment big one that we had inside of the content, my last calendars, that if you think that your content, that you don't have enough things to talk about, I certainly can tell you that there are a zillion ideas that you can talk about. You just need to look at how you're using whatever it is that you're coaching or healing on, or your courses, and start thinking, what problems I'm solving, and those can be your content categories. You can go from there and put together some research, the hot topics, and then position it as how you would talk about it from what you do in your business. Okay, so that was a big shift in beliefs that people had. So I love that, because that was like one of the first times that we ever really did that for a long time. And she really got a lot of value out of it, and she was super excited about it. So before I go into today's 2 questions, I just want to remind you that I've got a freebie listed right down below. It is the a profitable content creators roadmap, where I outline the 7 steps to creating profitable content, and I've included a bonus And that bonus in there is really pointing at what I'm doing right now in my content that's really working to blow up my content and get me seen and heard in front of a bunch of people. It's what I did last week, where I created a piece of content, a tiny little piece of content, and I got 1,000 views in one day, within actually a few hours. So it's kind of taken my content from kind of like here to here. So go grab that. I've got the link down below to grab the Profitable Content Creators Guide, where you can find out my 7-step process. I also include 5 mistakes that you might be making and how to fix them with your content. And some of it I talk about right in today's podcast episode, but there's a lot more in there. So let's dive into today's big question. I'm just getting started with my content creation. What kind of content should I be creating? Okay, so let's go back to those 3 pieces of content, or 3 types of content that you want to be creating. So what I would do if I was just starting today, for sure, I would only focus on creating video content, because that is what's trending right now. That is what's getting views, likes, all kinds of comments and engagement. So I would create only video content. Plus, it's super easy to repurpose that content into other formats, such as audio, a blog post, short form written content, and it's super fast to create. You can create a single piece of content for that will span 4 weeks in 30 minutes or less. I cover that right inside my 12x content creation course, which you can get for $47. I got the link right down below if you want to go check it out. But it's really a great way to create repurposable content that you can create a month's worth of content in 30 minutes, and it is possible with video content. Forget written content today. I still have some holdouts with my clients who only want to create written content. They don't want to get in front of the camera, and let me tell you, it's not working. And I can tell you from being an introvert, I did not like creating video content at first. But what I noticed is the more I sat down and did it, the better I got, the more comfortable I got. Better I got with that, the better coach and course creator I became for my students, because I became more confident on camera. And even when I'm on a Zoom now, I feel like way more confident being in front of a bigger audience. And I've gotten through all of my own personal fears that stopped me for years from creating video content. Okay, so I really want to urge you to go ahead and break through those fears if you're having them and create video content, and stop focusing on written content. Okay, so the next question I have is, why can't I pick my own topics? Okay, so here's a reason why you don't want to pick your own topics, because unless you really know your avatar, I would stay away from this, especially if you are a first time or new to content creation, or you have not gotten traction with your content. You can pick your topics after you've had some experience. That's how we test new things out. But to get started, I really suggest that you follow my 3-step content creation process. You can pick your categories, but it is far more efficient to go out and see what's trending and create your own version of that content using what topics are trending right now. So that to me is the smartest way to do it. Now, I've tried creating content that I thought my audience wanted, but it was a waste of my time. I didn't get traction on it, and I just had a tough time getting any kind of engagement. So what I do now is I use my content calendar. I also go through my old content and I create more content around the topics that I know are working. So if you've got content that you know is working, for sure create more content around it. But I do urge you to go out and find more topics and start broadening your content categories and trying things out. When you do that, you might just be discovering your next hot topics that your audience is looking for, and it can lead to all kinds of exciting things, such as my client Todd Krieger. I'm bringing him up again, but we started talking about infidelity. It was one of the topics, and when we started talking about infidelity, it exploded his views, his opens on his emails. We realized that his audience was searching for content like that. So we started creating more and more and more, and to now it's one of the biggest problems that his clients come to see him for. And he's really good at helping people with that problem. And the thing is, when you pick a hot topic like that people are pressing and they know the alternative is really expensive, they're willing to pay you top dollar to solve that for them. So definitely experiment with content categories that you haven't tried before, but do use the hot topic research to find out what people are consuming right now and what questions do they have about that particular topic. So that's it for today's episode of The Profitable Content Creator. And don't forget, I've got in the show notes the link to the content creator, the Profitable Content Creators Roadmap. And I've got the link to my little mini course called the 12X Content Creation Method, where I teach you how to create a month's worth of content in 30 minutes or less. And go down there, check them out. Definitely get the roadmap, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. And don't forget, if you've got questions or comments, leave them down below. I'm always looking to answer people's questions, or if you've got ideas or things you want to hear from me, don't be afraid to just leave those comments